elections anywhere because politicians lie anywhere. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's Bob Dole or Bill Clinton or Marion Barry or anybody, Pandey, Manning, anybody, same thing. Same difference anywhere you go. So this song was written 2 weeks before elections in Trinidad. And like I say, whether you're from America or Europe or Africa, you can identify with this song. It's called The Madman's Rant. Couldn't believe the bright boy, so I had to go to the lowest man in the society, the madman. That's the man who gave me some hope. Vote for we and we will set you free. Anywhere you turn, somebody chanting to we. Somebody promising jobs for all. Some renting gun to make other people ball. But somebody promising more police car. Somebody going to take the country far. Somebody putting all the bandits away. He said if they do the crime, they're going to damn well pay. But somebody promising a human rights, while somebody threatening to put out your lights. The Montreal full with little Trinidad boys. A bullet start to whine and put an end to the joy. Now they're lying cold for their mama to mourn. The Nike gone, the gold teeth on. You see they want the pocket full with blue silk. They want the statue drinking full cream milk. The little red silk is not their true friend. The blue one have two extra knots on the end. So a tag on the toe is now they take it to hell. But look where we reach. Well, I hear a madman fall as he spread out on a wall. He said, this is it, I've been hit. But no time to give up, brother, no time to quit. A chant of a madman, it is still from a strange land. It was the chant of a madman, Lord, give me my only salvation. I say the chant of a madman, it not just still from a strange land. Maybe the chant of the madman, Lord, is the only salvation. I don't know. Oh, Trinidad, oh, Trinidad, oh, Trinidad, Lord. Take it. Anywhere you go, somebody chanting to we. Vote for we and we go set you free. Somebody promising natural law. Fly like a yogi, end all the war. Seek inner peace, end all the pain. The same woman promising to go down again. Somebody promising to run all the bread. Somebody pushing a world-class head. Somebody clean out the weed well fast. Somebody chopping down the weed well fast. But somebody letting the cocaine pass. 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 Somebody still letting the cocaine pass. Somebody letting the cocaine pass. Somebody promised to abolish the tax. Somebody promising to be with the facts. Somebody promising to clean up the land. But in the clean land, rat killing man with bright little youths going to waste. Somebody teeth, the smile on their face. Somebody take one love off the shelf. Then the one of boys start to sell out themselves. Somebody going to end all this talk about race. But they can't tell me that with a straight face. Big men dying, the crime can't solve. A madman rant is the only reason I hear the madman fall. As he lay on a wall, he said, this is it, I've been hit. But no time to give up, brother, no time to quit. A chant of a madman, it is still from a strange land. It was the chant of a madman, Lord, give me my only solution. I say the chant of a madman, it not just tale from a strange land. Maybe the chant of the madman, Lord, the only salvation. Good night, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. And a very good evening to you, and welcome to tonight's edition of Politics 101, a Wednesday night. We are ready to roll promptly tonight. We have Vincent Alexander. He is backstage and he's ready to go. As you know, lots have been happening as far as the elections are concerned. The president named the date a couple of days ago. Turned out that GECOM was not consulted, that is, the commissioners, the opposition nominated commissioners, took yesterday to the airwaves. They held a press conference and gave their side. Later on, the PPP commissioners gave their side. The opposition nominated commissioners walked out of the subsequent meeting. Today, the media has have reports that the chairperson said she did consult. She consulted with the CEO. We will hear from Vincent Alexander here tonight on the veracity of what she's saying and how that squares with what they said yesterday. Let's bring in Vincent and get going immediately. Vincent, good evening to you. We're not hearing you, Vincent.
I'm here, but not hearing you, David.
Yes, we are hearing you now. Yes. Are you hearing me now? Are you hearing me now, Vincent? Vincent doesn't seem to be hearing me.
I'm not hearing you, David. Let me do a technical check.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. Vincent Alexander here, and we're waiting on Vincent to get his sound check. Sound check. Good evening to all of you, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us from inside of Guyana or you're joining us from outside Guyana, whether it's in the United States, Canada, Europe, South America, Africa, Asia. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all of you. Some of you are joining us from the east coast of Demerara, the East Bank, Demerara, West Side. Good evening. Good evening to you in Region 8, Region 9. Welcome, Region 8, Region 9. Special good evening to the people of Bartica in Region 7. Region 7. Welcome. Welcome to all of you joining us in Region 6, the Quarantine Coast. Welcome. Region 5, West Coast Bobis, West Bank Bobis. Welcome. Welcome. Good evening to those of you who are joining us from New Amsterdam. Those of you who join us from Region 4, Georgetown, the east coast of Demerara. Good evening to my country people from Buxton, Golden Grove, Nabaklis, Victoria. Good evening to all of you who are joining us from Enmore, Enterprise, Annandale, Lusignan, Monrepo. Wherever you're joining us, friend, welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to those of you joining us from the United States of America, from Maryland. I see Mr. DeFloremont is here. I belatedly learned that there was a death in the family. Mr. DeFloremont, please do accept my condolences. I only learned of your bereavement a day or so ago. Welcome, and of course, our condolences from Politics 101 on the passing of your family member. Um, Good evening to all of you joining us from Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia, the tri state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Welcome, welcome, welcome to those of you who are joining us from Canada. Those of you who are joining us from Canada, welcome. I see my countryman Brian Moses is here quite early. Good evening to you, Brian. Good evening to all others from Canada who are joining us. And I see the contingent from Europe, Ashley, and all of you. Good night. Good night. We're waiting on Vincent to get back so that we can go. Vincent has to leave a little bit early tonight. One can imagine that he is very much in demand. Good evening to you, Dennis October. Dennis October. Good evening to you, Diane from Washington, D.C. Met Diane when I was there last year or the year before. Welcome. Welcome to all of you. Vincent Alexander is getting ready. We had some technical difficulties, but of course, Vincent is here to tell us about the latest. Vincent and the opposition nominated commissioners said yesterday that the chairman of the commission did not consult with them before she gave the agreement with the president that September 1 is a good day for election. Let me see if Vincent is ready for us. I don't think he is. His video is not on. Let's say good evening to all of you. I see Ansgrove is in the house. Good evening to you, Ansgrove. Good evening to you. I noticed Mahaika is in the house. Borbis River. Where in the Borbis River you come joining us from, Paul? Is it Ithaca? Where? Good evening to you, Gladstone. Good evening to all of you joining us from all over Guyana. Vincent, let's see if he is ready. Vincent, are you hearing us? Vincent is still struggling with his instrument there. Are you hearing us, Vincent? He is not hearing us. He's not hearing us. Lyndon?
I'm back, but I'm still not hearing you.
Yeah, that's
I
quite...
don't know if you're hearing me.
Yes, I'm hearing you. I am hearing you.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh my. I don't know. We're gonna work that out. We are hearing you loud and clear. We are hearing you loud and clear. Are you hearing us now? Are you hearing us now? Vincent is still not hearing us.
Not hearing, not hearing.
Are you hearing us, Vincent? We are hearing you. We are hearing you, but you are not hearing us. Vincent is not hearing us at all. Let's do this.
and we will set you free. Anywhere you turn, somebody chanting to we. Somebody promising jobs for all. Some renting gun to make other people ball. But somebody promising more police car. Somebody going to take the country far. Somebody putting all the bandits away. He said if they do the crime, they're going to damn well pay. But somebody promising a human rights, while somebody threatening to put out your lights. The more tree full with little Trinidad boys. A bullet start to whine and put an end to the joy. Now they lying cold for the mama to mourn. The Nike gone, the gold teeth on. You see they want the pocket full with blue silk. They want the statue drinking full cream milk. The little red silk is not their true friend. The blue one have 2 extra knots on the end. So a tag on the toe is now they take it to hell. But look where we reach, well, I hear a madman ball as he spread out on a wall. He said, this is it, I've been hit. But no time to give up, brother, no time to quit. A chant of a madman, it is tale from a strange land. It was the chant of a madman, Lord, give me my only salvation. I said the chant of a madman, it not just tale from a strange land. Maybe the chant of the madman, Lord, is the only salvation. I don't know. Oh, Trinidad, oh, Trinidad, oh, Trinidad, Lord. Take it. Anywhere you go, somebody chanting to we. But for we and we go set you free. Somebody promising natural law. Fly like a yogi and all the war. Seek inner peace and all the pain. The same woman promising to go down again. Somebody promising to run all the bread. Somebody pushing a world-class head. Somebody clean out the weed well fast. Somebody chopping down the weed well fast. But somebody letting the cocaine pass. 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 Somebody still letting the cocaine pass. Somebody letting the cocaine pass. Somebody promised to abolish the tax. Somebody promising to be with the facts. Somebody promising to clean up the land. But in the clean land, rat killing man with bright little youths going to waste. Somebody teeth the smile on their face. Somebody take one love off the shelf. Then the one of boys that to sell out the self. Somebody going to end on this talk about race. But they can't tell me that with a straight face. Big men dying, the crime can't solve. A madman rant is my only resolve.
David Michael Rudder, the madman rant. Somebody making the cocaine pass this election season. Vote for me and we will set you free. Let's see if Vincent is ready for us now. Vincent, are you hearing us? Vincent, are you hearing us? He still is not hearing us. Vincent is still.
I'm seeing you. I'm not hearing you. I don't know what's the problem.
I don't know.
But if I am being seen and being heard, probably just allow me to use the remaining 15 minutes to ad lib.
Yes, go.
And let's work with that.
Yes. Yes, go.
Good evening, David, to you and your audience. Today, in many regards, is day 2 after the GECOM commissioners found it necessary to exit a meeting of GECOM yesterday. And we exited that meeting for a particular reason. Prior to yesterday's meeting, we last met on May the 20th. On May the 20th, we were discussing the work plan, which the CEO is now trying to describe as a list of activities. However, physical evidence reveals that it was a work plan, it was sequential, It had the activities. It had the period required for the activities. It had comments. And in fact, it concluded by indicating that given this work plan, the likely possible date for election was the 22nd of September 2025. That's what was on that document, which the CEO is now saying was not a work plan. In discussing that document, we recognize the president's prerogative to call elections. That's not a matter in dispute. But we also recognize that GECOM has an obligation that is equally constitutional to the president's prerogative to call elections, and that is the delivery elections that are free, fair, and transparent. In that regard, we sought to look at the plan itself to ensure that the plan provided, in our circumstance, all that is required for a free, fair, and transparent election. Given that we were not going to have biometrics, we called for the list of the overseas Guyanese, which can be legally provided by the Chief Immigration Officer, to be made available to GECOM so that we could highlight those names on the final electoral list to ensure that the party scrutineers and the GECOM officials would be alert in case anyone came forward to vote in those names, and to ensure that the person coming forward was in fact the real person, given our experience of 2020. And so that was one approach we wanted to use, and we wanted to have that inserted in the plan. We also wanted to have inserted in the plan the right of incarcerated persons to vote, and the remand persons in particular, because our constitution provides for all Guyanese age 18 to be able to be registered and to vote, unless those persons were guilty of an electoral offense, in which instance they would be suspended for 5 years, or insane. So we see this situation of the president's constitutional responsibility and authority, as well as GECOM's responsibility and authority. And in that context, historically, what GECOM would normally do is advise the president of its readiness. That's what GECOM would normally do. We are advised that the president did contact GECOM to find out about its readiness. In doing so, we asked the question, would you be ready in 3 months? The CEO apparently advises the chairperson that yes, we'll be ready in 3 months. And she passed that information on to the president, who then, unbeknownst to her, according to her, announced September 1 as the date for elections. Our contention is that given the question the president asked, given that we had a work program which we were told that the likely possible date was the 22nd, and given the ongoing discussions in relation to how we deal with the deceased overseas, how we deal with all the persons overseas, how we deal with the incarcerated persons, how we deal with the local deceased to be reported on by the police and the chief medical officer, that the advice the president should have been given is that GECOM, in its pursuit of of free, fair, and transparent election was still deliberating on certain matters, and that we were at the point where even before we concluded those matters, the likely possible date was the 16th. And in that regard, the president would have been properly guided as to how he exercised his prerogative. That obviously was not done. And so the problem we face with is the manner in which GECOM conducts its affairs. GECOM did not do what was right, and one can only attribute that to two things. One, the chairperson, who is now contended that she consulted, did not see herself as the first among equals of a commission, and therefore any consultation had to be among commissioners consulting about the advice rendered by the CEO, rather than consulting the CEO and rendering his advice to the president. So that's the first problem. An act of contempt for our commission, which collectively has a responsibility for delivering free, fair, and transparent elections. Secondly, as I said earlier, GECOM has a mandate. That mandate is to conduct free, fair, and transparent elections. And the issues which were pending are issues that were intended to contribute to free, fair, and transparent elections. Without those issues being resolved, and I dare say positively, GECOM would be falling short of the standards required for the conduct of free, fair, and transparent elections. Attempting to pretend or to suggest that GECOM could achieve the status by the 1st of September is in fact an attempt to wipe off of the agenda those measures which were intended to enhance the operations of GECOM and the delivery of free, fair, and transparent elections. And therefore, we saw this whole thing as being contrived. And this only came to our attention on the 26th, of May, having last convened on the 20th of May with a clear understanding that we will reconvene on the 22nd to continue the discussions, and that meeting was postponed without reason being given. And the next date for us to reconvene would have been Tuesday, yesterday. And here now we were reconvening in the light of a announcement of the date of elections that flies in the face of, one, our involvement in that determination and in that advice which was given to the president, and two, the apparent wiping off of the agenda and the relevant issues that would have enhanced GECOM's delivery of free, fair, and transparent elections. In that context, having attended a meeting where what the chairman sought to do was not to follow the normal agenda of the meeting, but immediately to embark on the discussion of a work plan that had been, for all intents and purposes, completed and considered to be that which we will work with, given the date, September 1. We thought it was contemptuous, it was procedurally incorrect for the chairperson, not in the first instance, to explain how is it we're having that work plan before us when the last meeting there was a work plan that we would continue to be working on, and why is it we were not consulted? And now you've come, you simply bypass all of that and say, let's discuss this work plan that is not a product that we had asked for and that we were told was available and that had already been used for the purpose of determining the date of an election. In that context, we could not participate because we were going to be merely dummies in the process, where all that was eventuating seemed to have the support of the PPP appointed commissioners and the chairperson, and was not going to be the subject of normal procedural democratic interaction, where their 4 votes might have prevailed anyhow. But here we were being given a fait accompli. And in that context, we said, we cannot continue to participate in that meeting to give retroactive approval for something that flies in the face of the work we were doing, and that also flies in the face of the delivery of free, fair, and transparent elections. We are now faced with a situation where GECOM is trying to contend, one, that they consulted, that is the chairman and the CEO, that's Balgadash. The consultation had to have been internal among the commissioners. We faced with a situation where the PDP commissioners are contending that since the Constitution provides the President with the prerogative, and the Constitution also says that elections should be delivered in 90 days, it doesn't matter what anybody else says, so let it be. We are aware, one, that we have had best practices which are now being ignored, and two, that the President acts on advice, and that he was given improper advice, and that he cannot be held for his declaration, but GECOM can be held for not having given him the requisite advice against his background. He then could have made whichever declaration he would have wanted to make. We haven't left the meeting. We're faced with a situation where there was no quorum, but given the nature of the operational procedures of GECOM, that meeting will convene tomorrow or reconvene tomorrow. And whether we attend or not, it will be quorate, and therefore the 4-3 scenario may well prevail. But in that circumstance, we will attend the meeting and we will continue to advance the case for free, fair, and transparent elections and a discussion of a work plan that can provide for such elections. And that is where the situation is at this time. There is no basis for anyone to contend that what we have said or done is improper, because all we have sought to do is to uphold the Constitution on one hand and to keep to the normal procedures of the conduct of GECOM affairs on the other hand. But we observe that, in fact, this manner of conduct is not a one-off. It is what is, in fact, has been occurring for some time now at GECOM, where our contributions are not seriously considered, and we simply have 4 persons seeking to impose their will on the people of Guyana.
Vincent Alexander there. Vincent has to run. He has another appointment. Vincent, thank you very much for giving us an update. Hopefully after the meeting tomorrow night, we're gonna have Vincent back. He's not able to hear us, but we heard him, so we have the report. So we'll talk, Vincent. We have to do some sign language here. We'll talk. So bye-bye. Vincent Alexander, the chairman of member of GECOM, opposition nominated thing. We are going to pick up from where Vincent left off. Some of you are asking about WPA's statement. WPA issued a statement yesterday. It was carried by some of the media. I know Stabrook News, Kaitro News carried it today. I am going to read that statement for those of you who are asking about it. Here it goes. WPA is shocked by the revelation that GECOM's chair acted unilaterally in advising President Ali on the suitability of September 1st as the date for Guyana's upcoming general and regional elections. If one of the PPP nominated commissioners is to be believed, it appears that even the government-aligned commissioners were not formally consulted. In effect, the chair appears to have been given a date by the president, and the CEO subsequently adjusted GECOM's previously publicized work plan to accommodate the president's preference. The chairperson has a duty to refute this perception. Until she does so, WPA in this preliminary comment is forced to conclude that she has tacitly handed over the election process to the president and the PPP. While it is the president's authority to set the election date, it is GECOM's right to determine when that body is ready to deliver proper elections. From all that we have learned thus far, that practice was torpedoed by the chairperson and the president, either separately or together. If WPA's assessment is correct, then those two officials have dealt another severe blow to the credibility of an already suspect election. WPA sees this as nothing short of political recklessness. Confidence in GECOM's ability to deliver impartial and credible elections is already at an all-time low. The chairperson, on account of her repeated votes with the PPP commissioners, is not seen by opposition supporters as an impartial arbiter. GECOM, since the 2020 election, has rejected all the opposition's suggestions for reform of the process, most of which were suggested by the international and regional observers. One would think that given these negatives, the Madam Chair would do everything to ensure a restoration of some semblance of confidence in GECOM. Instead, this recent act does the complete opposite. WPA's conclusion is that she, and by extension the majority of the Commission, have committed willful suicide. We would be hard-pressed to urge confidence in the integrity of these elections. If the decision on the date is being manipulated to fit the ruling party's agenda, how would the process going forward and the eventual outcome escape that course? Coming on the heels of the unsolved crisis emanating from the death of Adriana Young, GECOM and the president seem determined to turn the upcoming election into yet another flashpoint for national instability, a development our country can ill afford. In closing, WPA expresses its full solidarity with the opposition-nominated commissioners who have had to bear the indignity of being treated as aliens in GECOM. We also again call on the international community and CARICOM to use their influence to stop the political carnage. These forces owe it to the Guyanese people, given their central role in the development surrounding the last election. Their inaction in the face of a clear and present danger is inexcusable. They must move beyond words. End of the WPA statement. That statement was issued yesterday afternoon, and we have heard the chairperson today, and we heard Vincent here tonight. What in effect the chairperson has said is that the president called on Friday. He asked if elections can be held in 3 months' time. Chairman, asked the CEO. The CEO said yes. And I informed the president that yes, it can be held in 3 months. Our contention is she has consulted. She has consulted with the CEO. She obviously does not feel that she had to consult with the commissioners, and that includes the PPP commissioners. They were working on a work plan that said that elections at the earliest could have been on the 26th of September. That work plan was obviously thrown aside. Now let's get beyond all the niceties. Let's get beyond the niceties. Everything the PPP has been saying for the last year was that elections were going to be held closer to November. Everything they did pointed in that direction. The question is, what has changed? Well, what has changed is that Adriana Young was murdered a few weeks ago. And her murder triggered a national crisis. A national crisis in which the state, the governments, lost control of the country on the night of the 28th of April. What has happened is that the government continued the cover-up of what happened to that child. A cover-up that was started by the PPP police. The government tried to get the family to do what they have done with families in similar situations before, to take some money and to shut up. This young family did not do that. The body is now in the United States for a second autopsy. The government wanted to use the first autopsy, which said that the child died from drowning. That was rejected by the family. In a national embarrassment, the family had to fly their child's body to the United States. A national embarrassment. The matter has been internationalized. The PPP has lost control of the narrative. The significance of the upheaval following the murder of that child is that it became clear to the PPP and to the rest of Guyana that African Guyanese were not politically dead as the PPP was hoping. They had pronounced African Guyanese dead, and they were ready to feed on the carcass of that group. One PPP spokesperson revealed on Monday that from the PPP's perspective, the African vote is premium. And they were hoping that African Guyanese would have laid down and be rolled over. The developments up and down Guyana prove that that is not true. The PPP has been forced to change their plan. They want the election to be over as quickly as possible so that the fallout from the Adriana Young thing will not become an election issue. The Adriana Young matter is not over. The family has flown their child's body to the United States. We are awaiting, the country is awaiting the outcome of that second postmortem. While that child body has been flown to the United States, the PPP maliciously, belatedly released the report of the postmortem. And to the shock of the country, they conclude not that the child died from drowning. They've now gone beyond that. They are saying that the conclusion is that she did not die from foul play. Now, who's the PPP answering? Who tell them the child died from foul play? They are asking a question and answering their question. Because they know that if the conclusion is that the child died from foul play, their election chances would become compromised. So they have concluded that the child did not die from foul play. I wonder, how can pathologists conclude what the child did not die from? I thought pathologists tell you what people die from. They died from drowning. She died from drowning. Where did she drown? What were the circumstances behind it? Did somebody willfully drown her, throw her in water? Did she accidentally die from drowning? We do not know that, and a pathologist cannot, and I'm sure the pathologist did not. But not what the PPP did yesterday. The day after announcing election is that they say the child did not die from foul play. I repeat, a pathologist cannot tell us what the child didn't die from. They can tell us what the child died from. Why is the PPP so bent on saying what the child did not die from? As if that is not enough. The Canadian man that they brought, who came, we didn't hear anything about what he did, how long he spent. Suddenly, yesterday we heard, I think today we also heard, the Canadian man also said the child did not die from foul play. How did he know that? How does he know that? The PPP is bent on saying the child did not die from foul play. Because if a proper investigation is done And it is revealed that the child died from foul play. Not only would public opinion continue to turn against the PPP, but its own supporters would, in their quiet moments, question their own government. And in those circumstances, we don't know what will happen in the country. We saw when they first lied to the people took to the streets. The government ordered the police to shoot at people in Lenora and in Georgetown. And the people retaliated on the night of the 28th. The PPP does not know what will happen. It is politically sensible to know what could happen, and it does not want that to become an election issue. If it were possible to call that election within a month, the PPP would have done it if they could have gotten GECOM to pull that off. Clearly, the Constitution doesn't allow GECOM to pull it off in less than 3 months. The question is, in order to preserve its chances of winning an election, the PPP has sacrificed Adriana Young. She has been sacrificed. If we follow people who are in the know, they said her death was a sacrifice. Well, here is now another sacrifice. The PPP is sacrificing her in order to try to win an election. The PPP also is sacrificing free and fair elections in order to ensure that they stay in power. Now, what has been the mantra of GECOM? The mantra of GECOM is that, look, biometrics is possible. It will help. But it's too late. We don't have time for that. Cleaning up the voters list is possible. It's too late. We don't have time for that. So they were proceeding with a September 22 early date without biometrics and a clean voters list. But they were, as Vincent explained, they were exploring other issues. Issues such as who will the people on remand be allowed to vote? They were looking at other issues. Now, all those issues have now been thrown out the window. The answer is we don't have time for it. Now, let's cut through the nonsense. When the president called Madam Chair, they had already decided behind the scenes on the September 1st date. I am sure of that. The chairman must say that is not the case, and she has not said so. The conversation would have gone like this. How would we spin this September 1st date? If you consult the commissioners, they will say, but we are working on another plan. And Vincent Alexander, the other two commissioners, are going to go public with it. We can't consult them. We cannot consult them. And if we can't consult them, we then can formally consult the PPP commissioners. What is our next step? Madam Chair, you are the legal mind here. Well, the Constitution says that I must consult. So what I will say that I consult with the CEO, because it is the CEO who has to come up with a work plan. So she pulls a legal sleight of hand by saying, I consulted with the CEO. And so he calls on Friday as if it's an innocent call. And she said, yes, it can be done in 3 months. What they forgot is that a work plan for 3 months was not on the table. They then presented a work plan for the 3 months thing after the president made the announcement. All we born and grow in Guyana, we know about putting the cart before the horse. You have to do a plan, and then based on the plan, you get a date. Here, given that they were trying to pull a sleight of hand, they decide on a date and then develop a plan to suit the new date. That's what those scams did. Now, the issue here is not the date of election. The issue here is GECOM becoming the floor cloth of the PPP and the government. What is the PPP doing? What is the president doing? Determining a date for election before GECOM says, based on our work plan that we have gone through, we are confident that this date here we can ensure free and proper elections. The president has overstepped his authority. And the chairperson has violated the democratic principles that have and that should be embedded in decision-making in GECOM. If all she has to do is to consult the CEO to determine a date, then you might as well send home the 6 commissioners. And she and the CEO run the commission. If you have 6 commissioners that are mandated, that are there constitutionally, how can you make the most important decision without consulting them? Madam Chair, you are a lawyer. We are not lawyers, but we are not fools. You are basically saying that when it comes to the most important thing, which is deciding on the date that GECOM is going to be ready, is the chair and the CEO. Tell us, where in the Constitution, tell us where explicitly is that written. If it's not written explicitly, give us the reasoning behind your inference that you and the CEO could make that decision. How do you infer that? Where in? Somebody saying no sound. I don't understand that. Somebody saying no sound. Rosanna James is saying no sound. Is that true? I don't get that from everybody else. She must say, she has rendered the commissioners useless. If you bow to the PPP's agenda, and we have discussed, we said earlier, why the PPP has changed their agenda. The PPP wanted the East Coast Road to done. They wanted the Linden Road to done. They wanted the Borbies, the Arbor Bridge to done. They wanted a whole set of things to done before they called the election. They made that very clear. Those things can be done before September 1. So they've changed their agenda because they're in trouble. as we said last night, what is the PPP's path to victory? Only recently we heard the Stats Bureau said that they have postponed the publicizing of the data regarding the census. And of course, they intend to postpone that beyond the election. Everybody in the country knows by now what the census is showing. The census is showing that the Indian population in Guyana is about 34-35%. The African population has remained constant around 29-30%. There is a slight increase in the Amerindian population and a slight increase in the mixed population. If all the Indian electors were to vote for the PPP, it has to seek a path to victory. It normally gets about 50 to 60% of the Amerindian vote. So we add that to all of the Indian vote. It still doesn't guarantee them 50%. They usually get about 20% of the mixed votes. When you add that to the Amerindian vote and the Indian vote, it still doesn't give them victory. The African vote then becomes premium according to the PPP. I heard it in private, and then lo and behold, I heard Leno Craig, a PPP spokesperson, saying it on Monday night. The African vote is premium. And the fact that people like myself have been mobilizing African people for the last 5 years worries them. I didn't have to wait for the PPP to tell me African vote is premium. I know that. And that is why they've been trying to distract us by saying, let us go after Indian votes. The opposition path to victory is that you add the so-called African vote with the African mixed vote, and 40 to 50% of the Amerindian vote, clear path to victory that carries us potentially to over 50%. It is not that Indian votes are not important. It is the Indian votes are the hardest votes to get. But we have a path to victory without the hardest vote. The PPP does not have a path to victory without their hardest vote, which is the African vote. The PPP knows the hardest vote for them to get is the African vote. And that is why they've been going crazy. Every time we talk and we try to back them out of the African community. Because they do not have a path to victory potentially without the African vote. They either have to get the African vote, some of the African vote, or they have to suppress the African vote and keep them at home in order to have a path to victory. That is why the Adriana issue becomes a nightmare for them. Because what the Adriana issue did is that it has mobilized African people, self-mobilization. The parties didn't have to go in and mobilize them. Self-mobilization. The issue mobilized a dormant African community. And that is why they shut it down. They closed down the state of emergency after 3 days because they realized the longer they kept the curfew, the more they keep that issue alive and the more it would mobilize Africans. They did. That is why they're saying, don't make the Adriana issue political. That is why they're saying the opposition is taking advantage of the Adriana issue. Because the Adriana issue mobilized the African community, which according to them is premium. But the mobilization did not point in their direction. The mobilization pointed against them. Against them. No, I'm not saying that a mobilized African community will automatically vote for the opposition, but the opposition has a better chance now to go and mobilize, turn that African upsurge into votes. So that development caused the PPP to call this election as quickly as they could. And they've started the propaganda war by saying that Adriana did not die by foul means. We didn't tell you all killed she by foul means. You are answering a question that we ain't raised yet. We didn't say, who are you answering? Who are you all answering when you all say she didn't die by foul means? They're answering the mobilized African community and the opposition, even though we have not formally posed that question to them. So whatever the outcome of the second opinion, now the second opinion is not going to tell us whether she died by foul means or not. It's going to give us some more information, and then you have to have an investigation. You see, it's not the post-mortem that ends the issue. It's the investigation that follows the post-mortem. The post-mortem says she died by drowning. An investigation has to determine where the drowning happened, how it happened, when it happened, who do it. The PPP has frustrated that process. And they know it. They know that if they move in that direction, and the obvious to many people comes to the fore, that the child died by foul means, and that those foul means included some of their own fouls. So F-O-U-L means carried out by them, F-O-U-W-L-S. They know in an election that is going to further mobilize the opposition supporters. And they will have none of that. So they've already started propaganda war. She did not die by foul means. So if and when the second opinion on cause of death, and if that second opinion opens up a path for investigation into the circumstances surrounding the cause of death, they know they're in trouble. They're banking that Indian Guyanese will vote for them anyway. But as I said, Indian Guyanese, along with their PPP share of the Amerindians and their share of the mixed vote, do not carry them over the line. The path to victory, they have to get some African votes, or they have to suppress enough African votes so that they can steal. That's their path to victory. In a fair election, that's their path to victory. Now, let's move to the rigging. You all wonder Why all of a sudden we hear some Spanish-speaking men throw bomb at the police station and GPL. Spanish-speaking men throw bomb. Why they didn't pin it on PNC and AFC and the WPA? Why they pin it on Spanish-speaking people? That's another front that is opened up. The PPP is not stupid. The PPP knows that Maduro has agent provocateurs. He has spies. He has political mercenaries in Guyana. He knows it. The PPP knows that. And they know that that is about to explode. They know that Maduro people are getting to work in Guyana. Now, not they intend to use the Spanish speaking, are using their term, Spanish speaking. They didn't say Venezuelans and Spanish speaking. They have been open, they were open and still do, I think, to use the Spanish speaking voters to give them papers to vote illegally in our election. What Maduro has done is to set the cat among the pigeons. Anybody knows that. Look, years ago in the 90s, America was encouraging Cubans to leave Cuba and to go to America, and they were turning back Asians. And all of a sudden, a whole set of Cubans left Cuba in boats, and they take them in Miami. I think it was called the Marion boat lift. They take them in Miami. All of a sudden, within weeks, crime went up in Miami. When they do catch themselves, what Castro did was to open the prisons, open the lunatic asylums, and put them on the boat. So it's a whole heap of criminals, a whole heap of mentally challenged people were sent to Miami. The Americans had to round them up very quickly and put them in some camps. That is what Maduro has done. Among those people who have come across our borders are spies, are criminals. And so this bucket that the PPP is hoping to get votes from, they realize that that bucket is full of tainted votes. They're also intending to do what they did in 2020. That is to rig within GECOM. People vote who are not supposed to vote. They won about 2 seats as a result of that rigging, 2 to 3 seats for the 7 boxes, no statutory document. A whole set of other irregularities. Over 4,000 people who voted that were not in Guyana at the time. So they're hoping to skim off the customary 2 or 3 seats by doing that. But they needed time. And so they were hoping to go right down to November to put in place that rigging machinery. Now they've been forced to bring the date forward. It means the scope to rig within GECOM, that window is now closed slightly. So at every twist and turn, the PPP is in trouble. And so it's hoping to get this election out of the way as quickly as possible. Now, they may also be taking into consideration that the opposition hasn't decided yet on a presidential candidate and whether they're going as a coalition. But I don't think the PPP too bothered about that. Because the PPP know whether they go as a coalition or not, the PNC is an electoral machinery, and the PNC can click their finger like this and get ready for an election. They know that. So I don't think that's a big factor in their consideration that they're hoping to catch the opposition with its pants down. That may be a little consideration. But I think what I've outlined there tonight are the big considerations. We in the WPA have said that this election is a referendum on how the PPP has treated African Guyanese. And the treatment of African Guyanese is the treatment of the slave plantation. Here in the Caribbean, we had absentee plantation owners. What it meant is that white people were not here a lot. On any plantation, there were always more enslaved Africans than whites. It was the enslaved Africans who ran the plantation for the most part. And so what that meant, it meant two things. It meant that the white minority had to be brutal to the black majority. They had to be brutal to them to show them that if you only rise up, this is what will happen. They parade their heads at parade ground to show the others, if you all dare, this is what will happen to you. In America, they used to send the bad slaves. When the slaves behave bad, they send them to Jamaica. So one response, because the whites were the minority, is that they were brutal to the slaves, the enslaved people, sorry. But they also give them a little slack, carrot and stick. They allow them to beat their drums. They allow them on Saturday afternoon to go in the bush and make the bush rum and cook the bush cook. They allow them something that they didn't allow them in America. In America, they banned the drum. They didn't get time. No bush cook, no bush nothing. Because whites there were the majority. But in the Caribbean, they were not. So the way they dealt with the enslaved people was carrot and stick. Beat them to say, you all dare not rise up against us, but also give them a little carrot. And that's what the PPP has been doing to African people. They have been beating them severely, beat them in Moko, beat them in Linden, beat them in front of the hospital, shoot them in Dartmouth, shoot them in Golden Grove, beat them in the teachers' union, beat them in the public service union, beat their leaders. And then they call a few of them and they say, come here. Here is a little thing. Go back in the community and show them what we give you all. The carrot. The little carrot. Not them big carrot what they'll sell. The baby carrot they give them. That has been the PPP's attitude to Africans. But what happened on the 28th is when they round up those little boys who looted and stole, they found out that half, 3/4 of them are their own little boys that they were giving little baby carrots. Jack, you admit it. He said some of the boys them who get locked up should not have been locked up. Their own boys who they were giving the carrot turned back against them. And they locked some of them up. They realize, as the slave masters realize at the end of the day, you cannot buy people who are in oppression, who are oppressed. You cannot buy them with little carrots. You cannot beat them and then give them, they will remember the beating. They won't remember the little carrots. It's a lack of understanding of the African mind. They believe the African mind is so warped that we don't act like humans. Every other race in their head act like humans. They dare not do that to Indian people. The other day, the president been on the Essequibo, where he go and open and announce that they're going to build 4-lane road on Essequibo Coast, Lima Sands. Who been to Lima Sands a couple of weeks ago? Mohammed. They go in the Indian communities and they treat the Indians like human beings. Once the Indians protest, they duck and they treat them like human beings. Africans, they don't treat them like human beings. They figure that you can beat them, give them 1 ton of beating, and give them 1 ounce of carrots. And the hope is that they will remember the 1 ounce carrot and forget the 1 ton beating. And what happened since Adriana was murdered is that African people have shown that they remember the 1 ton of beating. They're in trouble. The plans have to be changed. The plans have to be changed. And that's what they forced on GECOM. Their change of plan. All of a sudden, the road ain't gone done. The bridge ain't gone done. They can't now run on infrastructure. They have to run on unfinished infrastructure. In any case, we have torn apart the infrastructure argument. We have blown it apart. They can't run on cash grant because the $100,000 that they give the people done already. They were hoping probably in October to give another one close to November. They can't run on cash grant. The cash grant too little bit. People spend in a day and they don't forget it. Every path that they opened up for a likely victory is being closed. That is what we are facing, comrades. That is the analysis of the WPA. I'm not saying that our analysis here tonight is spot on, but I am sure that we are at least 75% correct in our analysis. I am sure of that. I am sure the analysis we give here tonight, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Working People's Alliance, that our analysis is on spot. We have given them credit. We have said, you have inherited a windfall. And you are spending that money. Most of that money is going into the pockets of your people because of the emphasis on infrastructure, the emphasis on contracts. But some of that money is trickling down to people. Some of it, a 10% there, a 15% there, 85% going in the pocket of your supporters. A 10-15% is trickling down. But 10-15% cannot end poverty. That is why our poverty rate remains at 50%. You cannot get rid of poverty by only allowing 10 or 15% of the oil well to trickle down. You can't get rid of poverty like that. You cannot get rid of poverty by spending 60 to 65% on infrastructure. You can't. It does nothing. You can't get rid of poverty with a little 40,000, a little 100,000, a little thing here. You don't get rid of poverty. So even though a little bit of the money has trickled down, poverty remains extremely high. 50% of our people are earning 1,100 Guyana dollars per day or less. By the time you buy 2 sweet drink, $1,100 gone. If you buy a mixed fried rice, you got back for a $200 because mixed fried rice now must be about $1,300, $1,400. So 50% of our people cannot even afford a fried rice. And if they afford a fried rice, they can't buy water and sweet drink and juice in order to wash down the fried rice. That is the stark reality. And they know that we have the number when it comes to that. They know, as they said, that we are winning the information war. They know. They know. And that is why they wanted to stretch the thing out as close as possible to the last day, because they wanted to give themselves things to go and boast about. Can't do it now. The election's called now for September. And they're hoping that things don't move as fast. But things are moving very fast. They still have not charged anybody for the death of Fortuné. They've charged a person for the death of Ronaldo Peters. But that person is sitting somewhere in remand having a good time, being treated like an exalted prisoner. The PPP's path to victory becomes difficult. And the only way for them to win this election is to bully and rig. Bully and rig. Bully and rig. They don't want us to talk about race. I used to believe that Jack Dio don't know the meaning of racism. Because the man accused people of racism willy-nilly. Racism means that you believe your race is superior. And none of us on our side. None of us on our side believes that. But Jack Dio deliberately calls us racist. And you know what? That thing has penetrated the Indian Guyanese community. It's not just PPP leaders. The critical mass of Indian Guyanese really do believe that we are racist. And Jack Dio did that deliberately did that to poison Indians about coming over to our side. And when somebody calls you racist, there's not much you can do. No matter what you say, no matter what you explain. It's a verdict. Racism is a verdict on this color. When somebody says the notion of race is a verdict on this color, it said this color means inferior. This color means crime. This color means violence. They know when they say we are racist what they're doing. And the average Indian person, an Indian leader called me and he said, Dr. Hines, you don't know what we go through. He said, during the Granger time, the Indians used to tell me, Granger, hab your mama. He said, no, they must say, a ugly monkey, nothing, a hab your mama. You all know what hab is. This is what our East Indian comrades have to go through. They have poisoned East Indians against black people. And once that poison sinks in, there's not much you can do about that. There's not much you can do about it. You have to let it ride out. Brother, you see, observe his 100th birthday. Ravi Dev wrote a tribute to Kwayana. You know what was the tribute? The tribute was a profile of Kwayana as the consummate racist. When everybody wrote and saying, he's our elder, all praise to him. Ravi Dev wrote a nasty column with Kwayana as the consummate racist. Orphan Ali, a word never come out of his mouth saying an anchor, one of our icons, has met 100 years. When Sister Amna died the other day, all the PPP leaders correctly praised her, lionized her. What a one! Although we had different political philosophy, she was a giant. Kwayana was also a giant. Then that's not one word saying happy birthday, brother. You see, not from Ali, not from Jagdio, not from any government minister, black or pink or white. But when Amna died, they correctly said what a wonderful person she was. They correctly. I'm not saying they shouldn't. That is how it should be. When political opponents die, you give them their due. Our comrade didn't die. He reached 100 years. When the rest of the country put their arm around Kwayana, the PPP was missing in action. You all figure it out. You all figure it out. Kwayana was a founder of their party. He was a founder leader of their party. The party song that they sing when they gather is written by him. They cannot know him. God bless Donald Ramatar. He showed up in Boston. But Donald now is in the political wilderness. He's not a power broker in the party. Those who wield power in the party did not say happy birthday, you see. You ought to figure out what's happening in your country. And that is why, if they are trying to manipulate the African vote, we have a right to protect our community from that manipulation. Brother Walter Rodney said, if you use my race to dehumanize me, I am forced to use my race to humanize myself. Freddie Kusun wrote in a column the other day, David Hines should not be on the opposition ticket. He bashes Indians. Freddie gonna hear from me because he will have to write in that column. He will have to enumerate the bashing that I have done to Indians. If he can't do it, he will meet me up the long steps. But it's not an accident that he said I am bashing Indians. It's deliberate. They cannot point to one thing that I have said negative about Indian people. First of all, I don't believe Indian people are inferior, so it won't even come out of my mouth. It won't come from my head. So, secondly, I am very careful about how I deal with Indian people. Very careful. Because I know if the government changes tomorrow, the Indian attitude changes, and people like myself will have to interface with Indians, and the relationship will change because the power dynamics change, and that relationship will change. But that man wrote in his column, David Hines bash Indian people. Lying on me. He wrote in his column that I called Geeta Chandan a slave catcher because she criticized Rhonda Lane. Geeta Chandan wrote a statement criticizing Takumo Ogunsi when he made his speech at Buxton. And I said to her, this is a black man who's talking about black people business. And although you are a supporter, stay out of it. This is black people business. You are a supporter, stay out of it. And I called her a slave catcher. Freddie Kissoon said, Rhonda Lane denounce Indians. Rhonda Lane said the negative things against Indians. And Geeta criticized Rhonda, and I call Geeta slave catcher. That's how the story goes. I sent all the newspaper clippings to him, and I'm waiting to see if he will correct it. If he doesn't correct it, he will meet me up the long steps. It's okay for that propaganda. I know why they're targeting me. I know that. Politically, I don't have a problem with that. I know why they're targeting me. Maybe opposition leaders don't know why they're targeting me. They're targeting me, as GHK Lal says. You know, somebody, many people call me. I said, yes. GHK Lal said the opposition is boring. The only bright spot is the energy and fight that comes from David Hines and the WP. A rare kudo to the WP. And many people have pointed out to me, it's an honest assessment. You take it because tomorrow somebody will cuss you. I know why they're targeting me. When Rhonda made that statement, I said nothing. I said nothing. I knew better. You know, when I spoke on the Rhonda issue, when Ravi Dev confirmed that Rhonda was not wrong, that the first set of Indians who came to the Caribbean, most of them came from the slums of Calcutta. Ravi Dev said that. When Ravi Dev said it, then I commented. I said, Ravi Dev knew that woman was not wrong, but he allowed them to beat up on Rhonda. And he waited until months after to say the first wave of Indians who came, most of them, or a good set of them, came from the slums. Later on, they came from other parts of India. So Rhonda was not totally wrong. Some would argue Rhonda wasn't wrong at all. And I said nothing because I knew. And until Ravi Dev said that Rhonda, he didn't say Rhonda wasn't wrong. He said, but she has a point. Because the first wave, some of them, if not most of them, came from the slums. It was after he said it, then I spoke. I never said, yet Freddie writes an whole article, a whole thesis on the assumption that Geeta condemn Rhonda, and I call Geeta slave catcher. I call Geeta slave catcher when she put out a statement condemning Takumo Ogunsi as they were hauling him in chains. And I said, I met Geeta personally and I explained to her what was my political motive. Because it had nothing to do with Geeta as an individual. I explained to her what was the political motive. I remember Ganesh and Ubraj, and I don't know whoever else, they put out a statement criticizing Rhonda. Ganesh later on met with Rhonda and apologized to Rhonda. I didn't comment on that because I knew my history. I didn't want to get into it. I was waiting for an Indian to say it, and Ravi Dev eventually said it. But yet Freddie believes in his head that Gita criticized Rwanda because Rwanda put down Indian people. And I call Gita a slave catcher because she criticized a black woman putting down Indian people. And so David Hines agrees with putting down Indian people. If he doesn't correct it, he see me up the long step. Two things he see me up the long step for. I'm telling him publicly. But I understand why they're targeting me. I know why they're targeting me. Because the African vote is premium. And that I have made up my mind. The WPA has said that part of our platform, not the entire platform, part of our platform is protecting the dignity of African people. But even as we are doing that, we have put forward the most revolutionary proposal about how to distribute oil wealth, which is to give $1 million to each household regardless of race. So our cash transfer doesn't discriminate based on race. It's not going to individual. It's going to family. So we protect the dignity of African people. And we advance the economic well-being of Indian people, Amerindian people, and all races. We didn't say cash transfers must go only to Africans. We didn't say it must go to individuals. We said it must go to households. The African vote is premium. The African vote, it came from them. And we know it. They cannot have a path to victory without suppressing the African vote or trying to steal or buy some African votes and rigging. It's a combination of rigging, corralling the Spanish-speaking vote. Is there a Spanish-speaking, not me? Eh? Corralling the immigrant vote, suppressing the African vote, and buying the African vote. That is the path to victory. If we can stop them on those four things, they cannot smell victory. I think we have done a fair job in stopping them from ruling over black people. And they hate me for that. They hate me for that. And I'm prepared to live with that. They hate me for it. We have done a fair job. It's not over. We still have some Africans who are going to sell their votes. But I think that we have decreased the scope for that. We have decreased the scope for that. I think the Adriana's death has cleansed some of our black people who were swayed in a certain direction. So I think we have done a fair job at scuttling their plans as far as black people are concerned. The liquors, how many of them you all seen? How many of them you all seen? Maybe one, maybe two, maybe three. They were hoping to get hundreds of liquors out there by now. All of a sudden, they can't know. They can't get African. They're going out for Daniel Siram. They're going for this body, Shazam. They're now going for Indians crossover. The African crossover they were talking about has evaporated somewhat. Now they're rolling out Indian crossover. Comrades, brothers and sisters, you all must know when you're all winning, yeah? You all must know when you're all winning. You all must know when you're all winning. All of a sudden, it's not African crossover. They're now going for Indian crossovers. Because I think we have done a fairly good job. We could have done better. We still got a lot of work to do in the African community. A lot of work. Cheryl Barker, Cheryl calling name. Maybe one of them, Cheryl. Maybe two of them. They plan to roll out 100 African liquors. They plan. Now they can barely roll out 5. So we have done a fair job there. Maduro has taken care of the Spanish people thing to some extent. Because he sent the spies and look at the rise in crime among the Venezuelan community. Look at it, eh? Look at the rise in crime. If we so stupid to believe that Venezuelans are going to come over our borders in numbers, they say 50,000, 60,000, 80,000, and the Venezuelan government is not going to sneak in spies and mercenaries among them, we're stupid. But our government is so preoccupied with its own survival in power, it does not look after the security of our people. The rigging at GECOM is real. That is the biggie. That is the biggie. That is the biggie. That is the last straw for them. The last straw. So, sisters and brothers, the coup that they've pulled off in GECOM is not isolated. Madam Chair did not by accident agree to the September 1st date. Not by accident. She did not isolate our commissioners by accident. It's all part of the grand plan. And we are going to spend our time exposing them as we go along, but we are going to spend our time mobilizing our people. We think that the Indian Guyanese who are going to vote for the coalition have already made up their minds. I think so. I think we're going to get some Indian Guyanese votes. They're going to hide because they cannot openly say they are for the coalition. They're going to hide. And we have to give them that space to hide and give us their votes. I think they've made up their minds. Now, many of you will say, Dr. Ange, you haven't spoken about the Mohammed factor. I will speak about the Mohammed factor as we go along, but not tonight. I don't want to mix up. I want to mix up the thing because go get away belly walk. You can't squeeze lime in cassava porridge. You go walk your belly, right? You can't put pepper in rice pap. You go walk your belly, right? Right? So we're going to talk about the Mohammed factor at a later time. Michael is asking, is there a coalition? Yes, there is a coalition, Michael. Don't. I understand the frustration. There is a coalition. There's not a coalition presidential candidate. We're not agreed on that. The AFC presidential candidate is Nigel Hughes. The PNC presidential candidate is Aubrey Norton. The WPS presidential candidate is David Hines. We have presidential candidates. We have coalition. We haven't figured out how we're going to join with votes yet. But there is a coalition in form, FORM. But don't beat yourself up too much and believe that all is lost. We do have a coalition. What we haven't figured out yet is what form the coalition will take. What I can say about Mohammed is that if Mohammed joined a coalition with the PNC, that's suicide. Easy pickings to the PPP. You take your vote for him to black man. Let Mohammed stay outside tactically. But Mohammed has to know, if he wants to get rid of the PPP, he cannot poach black people vote tactically. You all know me, I just start it plain. If Mohammed is going to be any use to the anti-PPP forces, he has to bring Indian votes. He can't poach African votes. They ain't going to help the coalition or the opposition. We won in 2015 because Moses Nagamoto brought a critical mass of Indian voters. He brought them in 2011 and 2015. Moses Nagamoto didn't go after black votes. Coalition, we have to be tactical. So all of you all who jumping up about Mohammed, if Mohammed is going to help to get rid of the PPP, he has to hurt the PPP electorally. He cannot hurt the PNC or the AFC or WPA electorally. Black people, you all gotta get sober. Y'all gotta get sober. I'm not saying anything here that is a big secret. I'm saying it openly. Because clearly many people believe Mohammed is a factor. Well, if he's a factor, how is he going to help the anti-PPP forces? He helps the anti-PPP forces not by peeling off African votes, but by peeling off PPP votes. How he's going to do that, I don't know. What I do know is that the PPP is going to fight him to death. Nasty, nasty. They're going to be nasty. You all never see the PPP at this nasty. You all ain't see nothing yet. It's going to be nasty. So all those of you who are saying, Mohammed going to peel our vote, you all and understand politics. The PPP is going to be nasty to that brother. And if he only pull African vote, it doesn't help us. I'm going to talk more about Mohammed, because I think some of you all are teary-eyed, starry-eyed about the Mohammed thing. If you all never see the PPP ruthlessness, the next couple of months, I see somebody said to Mohammed, bye, stay away, yeah? You know what you're getting into. You all don't know what you're getting into. The PPP is nasty to Indians. If you all think they're nasty to black people, any Indian who is going against them, viciousness, we will see. We will see. But it's not as straightforward as you all think it is. Oh, Mohammed can bring away Indian votes. Indians are not like Africans. Africans tend to be more liberal with their votes. They tend to be more liberal. They tend to share it around. Perhaps Amerindians are more liberal than anybody else. Amerindians share to everybody than Africans. But the Indian vote is the hardest vote to crack. Hardest. The other man named Balram Singh Rai, he was like a film star. They say handsome. He was Jagan Home Affairs Minister and Jagan Education Minister. Them L-shaped school that you see in Indian communities, he built them when he was thing. And Jagan rig, the Jagans rig the vote against him for chairman of the party. They wanted a black chairman. So I think Jagan was out of the country and the Congress vote, they vote for Balram Singh Rai as the chairman. Jagan come, he overturned the election and make Brindley Ben the chairman. Balram Singh left. And he formed a party named Justice Party. He was, after Jagan, he was the most popular leader in the PPP. And then he formed a party named Justice Party. I go read and see how much vote he get in the 1964 election. When they were done with Balram Singh Rai, he packed up and go to England. I don't think he ever came back to Guyana. He died close to 100 years the other day. They never even give him pension, the PPP. They are vicious to their own when it comes to things. So it's not going to be easy for Mohammed. It's not going to be easy for him. So all those of you who are calculating our victory based on Mohammed, I'm urging you all, reassess that. Look for our path to victory over what we have control over. Not over what you don't have control over. Sisters and brothers, we are on our way. The next 3 months is going to be nasty. Nasty. No easy sailing. We in the WP are up for the fight. We have always been fighters. We are up for the fight. We have always been fighters.